Alright guys, well this is the re-upload of the Mystery Teachings Research Note to the 13 Tribes of Israel in regards to the tribes of Dan and Reuben. And the reason that I'm re-uploading this, and I have taken down the previous video, is that I wrongly attributed this painting to the wrong mythology. I attributed it to the Irish mythology, the Tuatha De Danann, as this website has done, where I sourced this picture from, when in fact it's the Norse mythology. And we're actually talking about Idunna, the daughter of Thjazi, who shapeshifted into a giant bird. So this has actually given us even more confirmation. And we see Idunna can also have the name Dan, D-A-N. And they speak of the golden apple tree. And if you look at the Celtic mythology, which is also why I assume that this was the Celtic, as this author of the website has, is because in the Celtic mythology, the goddess was basically ever young in the other world before the appointed hour marked by death. A passport was often necessary, and this was usually a silver branch of the sacred apple tree bearing blossoms or fruit, which the queen of the land of the ever living and ever young, okay, that's the immortals, gives to those mortals whom she wishes for as companions, though sometimes, as we shall see, it was a single apple without a branch. Now, I'm not sure about the other information, and I have to look into this more, but we're definitely seeing the apple symbolism with the Celtic and the apple symbolism with the Norse as well. So this is the Celtic, the Tuatha De Danann, or the Irish, and then we have the Norse, which is also Celtic. So it is not hard to understand how they are so identical and how it is easy to actually confuse the two mythologies. There's even similar names for similar goddesses. So now I'm aware of that, I will definitely be looking into that further and being sure that I don't confuse the two in future. But it definitely needs its own research, guys. I mean, this is a big subject matter. So I'm kind of going to leave the Tuatha De Danann for now. There is a little bit of information I'll bring to you in this video regarding what we're already pretty much talking about. But as far as the mythology with the apples and the symbolism, we'll leave that until I have looked further into this a little bit more. So that's just a clarification. I'm really sorry that that happened, but you know, I'm not infallible, guys. I do make mistakes, okay? So if you do see them, bring them to my attention. You know, I want to get to the truth too. So if I've overlooked something, or, you know, I've misattributed a picture to the wrong artist, and I've done this before, you know. It's easy to do when you do Google images on the net, because you do often get incorrect information. So I'm sorry for that, but if we all work together, then we do find these things out, and then it brings us to even more information, because now we find that Idunna was actually tied to a giant bird. Okay, so we're seeing this connection to an eagle, perhaps, Keitha. I mean, that is what I would think was a giant bird. I mean, that's the only other bird I can think of in mythology, because the Norse mythology already has the ravens, so they would say a raven. Or if it was a dove, like the Holy Spirit, then it would be a dove, but they're definitely saying the giant bird. And they separated Idunna from her golden apple tree. Well, the apple tree is what Eve has in the garden. It's the wisdom, okay? And in lower consciousness, all right, she gets separated from the wisdom, okay? And that's what this story is basically telling. Okay, that's the whole idea of this story. Okay, the ether has been taken away, all right, or has, yeah, basically removed her from the knowledge. Okay, and so I will link this underneath, because this is really interesting information. And as I said, I will get back into this information after we go through these diagrams again, and I, basically just put out this information with everything as it should be, because I do not like having information out there that isn't correct. Let's make sure that I am bringing the most confirmed information I can, and keeping it on the confirmations that we are finding. So let's leave that for later. So let's get back to this diagram. Now I've tidied it up a little bit and I've moved it around, trying to make it a little bit easier. And this is because when I'm researching, guys, and I'm putting it together, I'm kind of putting it together for myself. And so I kind of research over a week or so. So information I'm actually finding a week ago, I've already processed. So I might have actually got the surface of that information, but the conscious acknowledgement of that information has taken place for me, so I can kind of disregard it a little bit. Not that I do, but it is what your intellect basically does, is it's taking in new information. So bear with me, because I'm trying to keep it really fluid for you guys, and make it in a way that we can kind of connect the dots easily. And as I said, I'm actually going to go back and do all these videos the way I've done the mystery teachings, with the narrations and the diagrams. So it makes it a lot more easier to follow, and I can put it in a more in a way that's more of a sequence that you can follow more easily. I mean, some of you don't. I know you don't have a problem with it because you already understand the information, but it's you new guys that are really just starting to delve in, that I don't want to kind of have you getting frustrated and then maybe giving up because it's a little bit too all over the place. So just bear with us. Go and have a look at the mystery teachings, and get a really good understanding for sacred geometry and what that means to the symbols. And once you have that, then you can start doing this yourself, and you can actually start sending me information that you've decoded, and that really helps me, because there is so much information now, and now we're getting down to the details, so we're actually needing more information to come in so we can pick through and get the details out of all the white noise, because that's normally how it works. So okay, let's get into the diagram, and first of all let's go back to the 4 thrones within the 12 tribes, or actually also the 4 messiahs. Now, just as everything has a sequence, so does the manifestation, the creation from the mind of the creator. So do the souls have a sequence of manifestation onto the physical plane. And so we can see this shown to us in the different thrones within the tribes of Israel, that also connect to the 4 messiahs, because what they're showing are the different attributes of the divine mind, of the creator, being brought down onto foundation. And so as with everything in the mental universe, when we look at the Kabbalion, we know that the creator, the divine mind, expands through mental projection. And this is why the creator can never be divided or separated. It can only be extensions, and that extend out and fold back in a infinite, never-ending cycle. And so when we see consciousness manifested onto the physical plane, this is done mentally. And so this is why we see a connection to the tribe of Dan and Ketha, and also the eagle, swords, north, air, mental, and spades. The tribe of Rueben is actually symbolic for where the reflection of the divine mind emanates. And because man is an extension of Gaia, this is how the divine mind can expand, can consciously expand onto foundation. And so this is why we see Rueben in the south. Rueben is earth, foundation, and represented by clubs. Now, we can see this also on the Tree of Life with Ketha up the top and Malkuth down the bottom. And if you've followed the mystery teachings, you know the relevance of Ketha and Malkuth and the reflective qualities that they have. Now, to colour in the pillar of the extension, the first extension of creation onto the physical plane, we need will and desire, will and force, but we also need understanding and intuition and emotion, because this is where it ends at Ephraim. It finishes pooling at Ephraim, and this is why we see the cups, because the culmination of the Creator always goes back to the heart, and this is why Ephraim is also connected to the heart. And so with this sequence, we can also see this repeated in the 12 tribes of Israel. And what we're looking for is the connection of the Messiah, the first begotten Son of the Father, and that's basically the extension of the divine mind that is a part of Gaia, like the hand placed on Gaia, never moving. And I have to thank David Torres for, bringing my attention to the fruit of life, because this is a perfect example of how it works, with the 13 in the middle and all 12 emanating out, but the 13 also being reflected into the 12. And this is what we see with the Messiah in the middle here at 13, and then we have the 6 either side as a reflection of the Messiah. But because we know that the Messiah is also reflected out, then one of these 12 is also the Messiah, and this is Mary Magdalene, and this is what we're seeing here. Now, we can also see a connection to this information with the tribe of Dan and the normal playing cards, because we see swords is connected to air and spades and the mental. And so let's go over to spades. So we're seeing this mental and the air that swords is connected to. Another connection to Ketha, because we know Ketha is symbolic of God consciousness, of the divine mind, the wisdom of the Creator and divine mind is Ketha. It all is basically how the divine mind, extends itself mentally onto Malkuth, the physical. Okay? And then we have the emotions and the will that steer our destiny. Okay, so let's go over to what we can find when we look at the Ace of Spades or the Suit of Spades, and we actually find that the Ace of Spades is the highest card in the entire suit. Now, if you look at the Wikipedia information, it says that, at least in the English-speaking countries, the Ace of Spades is traditionally seen as the highest card in the deck of playing cards. Although the actual value of the card varies from game to game, it is a popular, in popular myth and folklore, it is also known as the Death card. Okay? And so this is another connection to Ketha, because remember, Ketha is also, when we look at the pendant, representing 13 and the third eye and the crown, 33, because at the reunification back to divine source as part of this never-ending cycle, we actually have to experience the death of the physical. Okay, so 13 is attributed to that. And so 13 is really not a bad number if you're a good soul, because you're shedding the physical to be reunited with Source. This is why they made such a big deal about the crown chakra and this whole event, because that's basically what you're doing. This is what all the mythology is telling us. And so now we're seeing 13, and we know that 13 is also connected to the death card in the tarot, and now we've got this connection to the Ace of Spades as well, giving us more confirmation about Ketha and the connection to the tribe of Dan, and the eagle and the sword. So now we're seeing all of this symbolism represented here in this diagram. We're seeing the eagle, the swords, and they're even showing the death. And they're showing the 7, either side. So you're actually seeing both of the messiahs. And 1 and 4 are 15, and 5 is destiny. So this is the destined emanation, creation of the divine mind onto foundation. And, we can see eagles, swords, and spades are, all connected to Ketha and the tribe of Dan. And we also see this very interesting diagram from the Mormons. And this looks like what seems to be a pyramid, but it's also looking like a beehive. And you see the little bees here. It's not a very good resolution, but you can see that there's a little doorway, even though they've tried not to really, make it too clear, because they're actually blending the two symbols together, because there's definitely the shape of a pyramid we can see. And here we have again the eagle at the apex of the pyramid, under the eye, under Ketha. So this is the tribe of Dan once again being shown connected to Ketha. And then we have this painting here, and we see that it is the tribe of Ephraim, symbolized by the bull. And so this is the heart. As I said, this is the final culmination of creation, pools in the heart. Always think about it ending in the heart. This is why we see Jesus holding the heart. This is why we see the heart so important. This is why we see that the heart is weighed, because it's a feedback system, because the more we give, the more we receive, and the more we illuminate. And it's all through the heart. It's all through giving. And so when we give, we're rewarded with more access to our divinity. And we can see, even though they've tried to hide this information and make us think that this is Jesus with the red cape and the cross, he's actually pointing, Ephraim is pointing to the tribe of Dan with the eagle over the top here. And a lot of the times this eagle is also looking like a phoenix. So I think that there's separate symbolism there, as with the griffin, that we'll have to uncover the layers of too. But the difference that we can see between these two, that's also showing us that this is Jesus, is that he has actually got the halo. Okay, so it's showing that he's connecting with Ketha. All right? And another confirmation is this from Judaism. And we're seeing the tetragrammaton in the human heart. And basically, on one side it's got Emmanuel, and on the other side it's got Jesus. However, when you look up about Emmanuel, it's very shady. They don't say much. They call it this figure that nobody quite understands, that can't be pinpointed. It's, basically them saying that they don't want to tell you that this is the female side. And then this is Jesus showing the Messiah, the first begotten. Now, this is what I wanted to show you before, that if you listen to this video of Manly P. Hall, the only begotten Son of the Father, it will explain the process of how the Creator, how the divine mind expands upon himself and returns to himself, and how this cycle completes itself over and over again. And this is all the information throughout all mythology and scripture that was left to us to basically give us an understanding of who we are. And so this then brings us to the realization that, gee, it does matter if I have a good heart. And this is not what the establishment have been selling. This is not the storyline the establishment have been selling. And even the New Agey establishment have been selling processes, external processes. Nothing about the heart. It's all about this external process of decalcifying, the pineal gland and all of this other external physical, process that keeps you looking outside of yourself when you want to be looking within, because this is where the path of the hermit is. This is where the path back to Ketha is, within. And so I really recommend, if you want an understanding for how this works, that you do listen to Manly P. Hall and that video, because it explains, that everything is a manifestation from the mental. And so therefore it is the mental, the first begotten son of the Father, that is manifested in the physical, on the physical plane, and it is the female that is birthed through the male physically for the first time on the physical plane. And this is because the female is ethereal first and foremost, so she needs that physicality from the male Messiah to give her creation. And then from that time on, it is the female that brings God back down and the divine back down onto the physical plane. So we are seeing quite a lot of confirmations now with the tribe of Dan and Ketha and the Messiahs, and we can also see this repeated in the tarot cards. We have got this tarot card here with 12 spikes either side, and then you've got the 2 up the top, but it's actually emanating from a midpoint. And it almost looks like the, horns of Isis. And we see it again with the sword now actually connecting with the Eye of Providence, which we know is connected to Ketha. And on this deck, we've actually got the red sword and 8 of these little ribbons. Okay, once again, we see almost what looks like to be these, horns of Isis, this symbolism, I think, of creation. Because the moon is also symbolic of creation and the female is symbolic of creation. So even though it's the female ethereal energies that are the creational forces of, birthing the physical, it is still the physical that is required to bring the female onto the physical plane. And so this is what this is showing us. Now, more confirmations we've got now through the eagle and the sword, but we're seeing now the twin-headed eagle. And we're seeing the connection again to the pendant, 33, Ketha, okay? It's all connected to Ketha and crowned at Ketha. If you look at Kabbalah and you look at the Tree of Life, when you reach the top at Ketha, you are crowned. This is, just more proof, guys, that it all goes back to ancient Egypt, okay? And again with Kircher, who had access to very, sacred information, sacred knowledge from the Vatican Library. And he was also giving us this understanding of the, twin-headed eagle, okay? And again, we've got the eagle on the top and the 4 different messiahs and the 4 different thrones of the 12 tribes represented as well underneath. Okay, onto foundation as well with Rueben. Because it always has to culminate from the mental onto the physical foundation and then emotionally. And this is also what we see when we're looking at, these diagrams here. And, this is interesting here. We're seeing a connection to the phoenix and the eagle and the tribe of Dan with the flames here. But you won't see the directions of Ketha and Malkuth, okay, changing. You will with Ephraim and Judah sometimes, with the bull and the lion, because when you think about emotions, they kind of feed back into each other. Malkuth and Keitha do have a reflective quality, but it's not the same type of interaction as will and desire has with emotion. And because if you look at will and desire, it creates emotion, and emotion also creates the will and desire. So you can see those interchange, but you'll always see, you know, man, Malkuth, at the bottom, at the root, sometimes denoted by a sphere, sometimes a tree, the clubs as well. You know, we have to remember Rueben is the clubs. And we see the intellect up the top here with the mental and the eagle and man. You know, you always see when you've got them together that normally the eagle is on the right hand side and man is on the left, and we see it here too, man on the left and the eagle on the right, you know. And here we see the eagle up the top, man in the middle, and both the bull, which is emotions, and the will and the drive being played out in man. But you're seeing that it's emanating first from the mental. Okay, and we're seeing again this information on the Wheel of Fortune card that's showing the Sphinx with the sword. And if you watch the mystery teachings, you know that the sword is the word of God, wisdom of God, and this is why it's double-edged, because sometimes it cuts, sometimes love hurts, and sometimes what's good for us doesn't seem so at the time. And this is what represents in God's law. And it's sharp, it's swift, and it's final. And they're basically showing the Sphinx is the creator brought down onto the physical, and on top is North. This is the tribe of Dan. Okay? And this is Rueben, R, down the bottom here. So we're seeing the reflection again of the mental into, down the bottom here, the physical foundation. And this is actually the intermediate consciousness. Think of, the Hierophant. Think of Moses and Hermes. That universal mind that separates us from the divine mind and our physical manifestation, because we only return to source at the end of the cycle. At all other times, we have an intermediate consciousness that speaks through the divine intelligence. Okay? If you can understand that. So, we're finding more confirmation. Now, we can come over here and we can have a look at Erica's diagram. And thank you, Erica. This is an excellent diagram that she's gone on with the Fibonacci sequence, and she's decided to look at the Fibonacci digital root numbers. Okay? And you can learn about them more. Just go and look on Wikipedia and you can find out about them. And also Pell numbers, okay? Which are an infinite sequence of integers known since ancient times, okay? So these systems are known to the ancients, and this is why we're seeing this information relayed this way. And so Erica's gone and she's used a numerical order from 1 to 24, and then she's followed it with the Fibonacci sequence, and then the digital root of the Fibonacci sequence, and she's found a pattern. And this pattern shows us that there's a shifting point at 13, which just happens to be the number of the Messiah. And also she's found cross points and midpoints. Now, the cross points, 19 and 7, just happen to be at 7, right? And 10 and 16, the midpoints, also are connecting to Rueben. Because if you actually look down here, if you go to the thrones of Israel and the different thrones within the tribes of Israel, you'll see that there's a number. And when you deduce these numbers, they give you other numbers. And you get the number 19 from the tribe of Dan, and you get the number 16 from the tribe of Rueben. And we see the number 19 right here where the Messiah should be, and we see the number 16 right here at 10. And guess what? We see this repeating itself, 10 and 7 as well. Okay? So it's, showing us that this is the language of the symbolism, the language of the universe, the language they were trying to speak to us with. Now, it's also interesting when you have a look at the 13th, number in the sequence, the shifting point, it's right at 144, and we know that that's very important in a lot of different calculations of even the ancient structures. Now, what else can we see here to confirm that we've got Ketha at the tribe of Dan? Well, we can have a look at this diagram here from the Rosicrucians, and once again we see the animals are featured, the 4 messiahs or the 4 thrones within the 12 tribes, and we've got the eagle, the man, the bull, and the lion. And look, when we see north and south, once again we see that mirror reflection. We see the mental being brought down to the physical. Okay? And if you have a look at this symbolism, it's actually Chaldean. And it says that this symbolizes the active creative principle and the manifestation of divine power that fertilizes matter. So basically, that's saying that this is the divine power fertilizing matter. And then down the bottom symbolizes again the divine creative principle and signifies that the creative strength which emanates from it ceaselessly returns to it and springs from it everlastingly. Meaning this is an infinite cycle. And so this is why we see on the Tree of Life sometimes when we see by Kircher and Flood, they were showing the 10 at the top and the 10 at the bottom. Okay, it's this infinite feedback of a reflection going on with the mind of the creator down onto foundation and experiencing itself in the physical, emanating from the messiahs, which are part of the divine mind that is part of Gaia, unmoving, unchanging, the 5 trees that stay in the garden. Even when they're kicked out of the garden, there's a part of them that's left in there. And as I was saying, this is really a good way of showing how this works with the 13 and then reflected out into the 12 even itself. Now, we did look at this diagram in the last video, but we'll have a look at it again because it is really clear confirmation that we're seeing once again Ketha. They've actually shown us that Ketha's at the top with the eagle. We've got Bina and Chokmah with the bull and the lion. And we've got a man with the wings and holding the clubs and swords onto foundation. Now, I'm going to have to look into a little bit more in regards to Chokmah and Bina, because Bina is actually understanding and Chokmah is actually force and drive and the male energy. So, might have to look at why that is switched around. But as I say, sometimes they do that with these two, but you'll never find it with Ketha and Malkuth and the tribes of Dan and Rueben. Even when you look at the other information about the swords and, Ketha, it remains solid. So this is because it's very significant to the psyche and we remember it as a collective. And this is why the layers will be revealed this way. So we'll learn about each tribe as we, understand the symbolism. And so this is how the language of the symbolism works as well. This is why it's good not to overload ourselves with white noise, with too much information, with just looking at everything. You basically want to narrow it down to searching for particular patterns and then go and search them out and find your connections that way. Now we see it again over here. We've got the symbolism here for, you know, Hermes and Moses and the divine intellect, the intermediate intellect. We've got the ray here coming from the divine intellect onto the eagle being Ketha. We've even got the book there, the knowledge. We've got the grail, the cup. We've got the keys as well. Okay, and then we've got both Ephraim and the lion Judah again. But here, notice they're switched again. But once again, you will not see Ketha and Malkuth switched. It's this. It's like they are what the emanation of the Creator's will and emotion then emanates from. But this is the foundation that the Creator first put down. Like, imagine that the Creator just got his hand and he just put it onto Mother Earth. And he laid down his hand like that, you know, and that's basically what we're seeing with that connection. And then from that hand being laid down onto the physical plane, we get the desire and the emotion that emanate from that. And we also see this in this diagram from Leonardo da Vinci, which is just a wonderful diagram. I really have to thank these artists like Da Vinci and Michelangelo for this knowledge. And I also want to just take a moment to thank the members of my group that are constantly helping me with information and giving me this so that I can continue to make these connections. So just want to give a shout out to Tiffany and Alan and David and Sally. And I know there's more of you guys, Erica, you know, they're just the ones off the top of my head, but, you know, I am very, very thankful for any information that comes my way that can help me keep connecting the dots. But as I said, what I look for are particular patterns of certain symbolism over and over again, attributed to certain stories over and over again. That's how I find my connections, not by sifting through other people's speculation on what they think. Okay, that's not how we gain knowledge. Okay, we have to actually go and search it out, go and seek it out, go and find the symbolism. That's why the symbolism was left to us. Because you can't really change the archetypes, and you can't really, you know, change their meanings. But you can change words. You know, you can't change numbers. 1 and 1's always going to be 2 somewhere in the universe. But you can change words. You can manipulate words. You can, you know, move words around to confuse. And this is why we're at this point in time where we are so confused. Because this is what happens. We're only relying on words now to tell us our story instead of all the other information that's been left there for us. But it's whether we have eyes to see it. Have we opened our third eye? Have we opened our pineal gland? Everyone wants to talk about that, but I don't think many people understand the processes of doing it, and that's having the single eye of who you are. And when you know who you are, you can move towards Ketha and, you know, reunite with self and with that divine intelligence. I mean, this is what this information is all showing us. But it counts on the heart. It counts on the heart, and it counts on you seeking and understanding for who you are and filling your heart, because that's how you fill your heart with light and love. Because the more you understand about yourself and the universe, the more you love the universe and creation, and you want to see it flourish. You want to help others, you know. But I don't waste time on people that just attack me and are threatened by my information. Okay, so that's why I don't bother with them. Okay, they'll be dealt with whenever by the universe. They're on their own path. I'm here for the souls that have found their connection again to who they are and are here to benefit the collective, so we can all move together back towards this, you know, collective source where we emanated from in the first place, you know. And so this is what all the mythology is showing us occurs in this cycle, this huge cycle that we're going through. And so we see this with Leonardo perfectly. He has shown Keitha here with the crown, and then he's got the eagle, and it's on foundation, symbolized by not only the sphere and earth, but also the tree. Because the tree is also our foundation. This is man, this is clubs. Now he's shown us a definite separation between the ether and also the physical, okay? Because we've got the two planes of existence, okay? And he's almost put them directly down the middle here. And he's showing how Keitha actually emanates through the two, but it starts in Keitha, in divine consciousness, and then moves through the veil to be, basically manifest onto foundation as man, as clubs. And then this is man's fire and drive and will and destiny, because his will and drive is what destines his future. It is his rudder. His fifth chakra, his expression of soul, is his will and drive through the paths of life on his journey. And this all culminates at Ephraim, the bull. Just like we're seeing here with hearts and Ephraim, that it all culminates in the heart. And Ephraim is also connected to the hearts in the normal playing cards, and the cups, and emotion. Okay, and this is where it all manifests into emotion. And so the more we have in our heart, the more we illuminate, and so the more access to our divinity we actually have. And this is basically what we're being shown here. So the more we illuminate the collective, the more we illuminate ourselves, because we become conduits for Keitha, for divine intelligence. But it's only when we're open to it and we can perceive it through our third eye, through our ba, because when we talk about consciousness, we also want to remember that, consciousness is contained within our soul, our ba and our ka. And so, we're receiving Keitha through our ba, through our consciousness, and we're manifesting that through our heart, onto foundation. And as I said, it's the more that we illuminate and give, because it all comes through giving. It's all about giving. The more you give, the more you receive. That's why it's like in the Bible, give and receive. That's what it means. It's not put your freaking church dish out and ask for money, okay? Because that's asking, all right? That's not giving, all right? You just have to give. If people want to pay, I suppose if you wanted to take something, but money is this breakdown of giving. When money comes in between it, it's like it severs the connection to the divine, and it becomes the God. And so this is why we've got to remove it. It's not useful to the collective. What's useful is information about who they are, so we can all start having an understanding for that. And then through a causal effect, of cause and effect, principle of the universe, we illuminate others. Like the wine glass, the champagne glass at the top, that, from everything else flows down. And this is just like the pyramid as well, the apex, and then from everything else it flows down. So this is what happens. And so this is why the divine ones, this is why the universe is so wonderful and fantastic, is because the divine ones, when they have access to their full divinity, can only do it through goodness. So there can never be corruption and this extent of full power of the Creator onto the physical plane. Now, before I move on, I just wanted to show you that we're even seeing with Da Vinci how he's showing the emotion and, the mental aspects, mental moving towards the emotion, and basically showing that it's the harmonizing of the mental and emotion that we need to strive for. And in times of lower consciousness, it's when we've moved right back into the mental. And so now we're actually moving back towards into a more intuitive time, because we're getting the ether and the other plane, that we exist within, moving back into our foundations, our physical foundations, and illuminating us through our divinity. Right, so just lastly, this is what I did want to bring you about the tribe of Tuatha De Danann, because there is some very important connections. Now, as I said, I'll go back into the mythology later on after I've had a bit more of a look into it and found some more connections, because I'm finding some big connections to the Norse mythology that's kind of filling in the gaps of what I didn't understand in the Norse mythology, actually. So between the two of them, I think we're actually going to be able to put together something that we can understand. So we've got Danu and Nuada of the Tuatha De Danann, and we can see Dan. We can also see Danu, and then we see D-A-N again, and then Danu within this. So we're seeing this play on Dan. So we're obviously seeing the tribe of Dan, okay? Then we have a look into the mythology, and this is where it gets really good with the connections, because we see that there are 4 different, kings, and they all bring these gifts, these items, and each one is, attributed to a different one of these kings. And so one of them is, of course, to Nuada, and his is the sword, okay, and it's called the Sword of Destiny. The Sword of Light. The Stone of Destiny is attributed to the tribe of Rueben. So we're getting more information about that. The Stone of... I was researching this last night, so this is why I really wanted to tell you this, and now I've stuffed it up. Okay, let's go back to this. Let's start again, shall we? Rewind. Let's go back to Nuada. He has a sword. That was one of the 4 items, the 4 great gifts that the mythology surrounds. And one of these gifts was a sword, and it was a kick-ass sword. It was called the Sword of Light. Okay? It was the sword of, illumination. And this was belonging to the King Nuada, who was the king of and with the goddess Danu. Swords, once again, we're seeing a connection to swords. Now, these are the different representations of the different thrones within the tribes of Tuatha De Danann, as well as the different messiahs. Now, this is why I was getting all tongue-tied before what I wanted to show you. There's been some debate about wands and pentacles, and people saying wands is fire and pentacles is earth. And it's actually the other way around. Pentacles is fire and wands is earth. Okay? And so we see wands is the spear. We see that the Judah, pentacles is the stone, Dan is the swords, and Ephraim is the cauldron or the cups. Now, more connections to the reason that I think that it is, connected to this as well. I mean, we've already confirmed it through other alchemy diagrams that have shown us this is the correct way, that the reinterpretation of tarot New Age perspective has changed it, but it's always been, when you go back to the ancients, that it was Judah and the pentagram that was the element of fire. And and this is connected to pentacles, whereas Rueben is clubs. And this is why we see the sprouts and we see the tree. I mean, we've already seen the tree symbolism. We know that that is from the foundation of Earth, that is representing us coming up from Mother Earth, because we are a part of her. That is how we exist in creation. So the reason that I've seen another confirmation is they call this the Stone of Destiny. And we know that pentacles, which is the equivalent of this, the stone, is also all about destiny, about 5. The pentagram and the pentacle is about destiny and God's will. And as in God's destined will, not God's law, God's wisdom. That's Dan. Okay, and then you've got God's emotions, and you've got God's instincts, and how he exists in the physical at his most instinctive as man. Okay, and these are all then the attributes of the Creator being brought down. This is what we're being shown here. So anyway, I've pretty much covered that. As I said, it was a bit of a mix-up between Iduna, the Norse mythology, but I'm going to look into that, and it's very significant that the apple keeps getting repeated over and over again. We've got confirmation of that now, and as I said, if we have a look, we've got Dan over here with the serpent and the apple, so another confirmation. But I will leave it here for now, guys, and I'll put all the links underneath. And once again, I'm really sorry for having to upload that and just clarify it all, but I have added in a little bit of extra information, so I hope it's been worth it. And I'll leave it here for now. As always, peace out.